All right, we're going to move on from this tragedy and the run it straight issue to another trend that I've seen emerging. I thought the days of saying that Nazis were women who plaited their kids' hair and were into handicrafts. And remember that craziness during lockdown from the Disinformation Project, who were being given millions by their mate Jacinda Ardern to just spout some of the craziest rubbish and fill up our mainstream newspapers with all these weird conspiracy theories about what Nazis look like. I thought that was over. But I was amazed online to watch a great video from Bob McCoskrie. He's doing quite a bit online at the moment. Bob McCoskrie from Family First. And he did a kind of deep dive into the new devils amongst us, according to the woke left, people called Tradwives. And it was quite fascinating. And I thought I'd get Bob to share this new trend amongst the Nazi hunters with you. The tradwife trend, or the tradwife hysteria that is going on in Wokedom. Bob joins us by video link now. How are you, mate?
Morning, Sean.
Well, I thought it was all over. I thought the Pinterest Nazis had all gone once we cut the funding for the Disinformation Project. Firstly, can you tell us, in the mind of, let's say, your average stuff reporter, what is a tradwife? What are these people, these evil people called tradwives?
Golly, Sean, that's a bit of a traumatic start to the day that I definitely don't want to get into the mind of a stuff reporter. But look, from my understanding, a tradwife is effectively a mum who has decided that in the best interests of her kids, in the best interests of the family, rather than perhaps farming the kids off to daycare from 6 months onwards and going back to work and feeling that her purpose is in full-time work. And for some people, the career is important, but it's about the choice. And the parents, some mums want to stay home, do full-time. They want to be creative with the kids. They may even want to, dare I say, shock horror, homeschool their kids, which is becoming more and more attractive by the day. And effectively, they want to be a wife, and they want to acknowledge that they have a husband as well, and the husband may be the provider and the wife may be the homemaker. And apparently this is the start, according to the minds of some media, it's the start of a terrorist group, and it can lead to misogyny and violent extremism.
Is this a global trend in the Western world, the newly identified tradwife trend? Okay. From the stuff you showed, and I've done a deep dive now too, I've looked at tradwife stuff. They always wear like gingham, 1950s stuff.
Yeah.
They're always totally subservient to the husband, who probably smokes a pipe, right, and wears a hat. And I think the wokesters kind of suggest that the tradwife betrays feminism and betrays women by being a woman. Would that be right?
Oh, it does. I mean, it effectively reinforces marriage. It reinforces perhaps gender roles. And of course, very binary, that mums have particular roles and dads may have others. Look, there's always the exception. And this is not saying that parents don't have the ability to make the choices to how they structure it. But I find it ironic that they talk about the woman's right to choose, but when she chooses to be stay-home mum full-time, she's harking back to some nostalgic day that should be done away with. And our resident expert from Auckland University of Technology says that she just hopes that we come out of this lunacy in effect.
Now, who was that?
Right, Sean, it's not.
Who was that, the resident expert?
That was AUT Senior Lecturer in Communication Studies, Christina Vogels.
Well, what would she know?
Who actually...
about?
Well, the interesting thing is that during the podcast, she actually admits that she's a solo mum. So obviously she's got challenges which perhaps some tradwives don't have, and so therefore
nothing wrong with being a solo mum. I was raised by a solo mum. She did it.
That's right. And so all power to them and all credit to them.
Look, so there is, if you like, there's the boogie. I was going to say the boogeyman, the boogie mum that's been created by the woke left-wing media. I hate to do this to you. Can we try and get some facts? Are there any statistics or studies that show that tradwives are on the rise, that more women are staying home or living more
Yeah, look,
traditional
no, I
gendered
think
roles?
there is statistics. It hasn't been done in New Zealand, and it would be an interesting thing just to look at. I mean, that's actually a challenge for me, Sean, is just to look at Stats NZ and to look at household incomes based on, the number of adults in the house. But there has been research on generally there's this perception that if a woman has children that their life is that much harder and it's a struggle and a burden. But what the recent research that I looked at out of the United States showed was that actually mums who were engaging with their children had high quality, high life satisfaction and were very happy. In fact, you might have seen in the blog that I did on this, I actually quoted a study where AI suggested that actually conservative women are not only happier, they're prettier. So anyway, so there's a good reason to be a conservative.
Boy, I'm not going to go there. I get myself in all sorts of trouble. But we do
It didn't
not
apply to
know.
guys,
We do not know
fortunately, Sean.
statistically whether or not more women are staying home and not working and taking care of the kids and, I don't know, having a martini really when you come home. That's my dream. I watched too much Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, didn't I? Okay. Why then is this totally imagined group is there any self-identification of tradwives? Have you ever seen a Facebook group called Tradwives? Do these terrible right-wing Nazi wives get together and plot evil things against the wokesters of the world or not? Is there any indication that there's a self-identifying group called Tradwives?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, the article in the New Zealand Herald, which alerted me to the podcast, which was done by
Radio New Zealand?
New Zealand Herald,
Yeah.
and is it Stacey Daniels? No,
Yeah.
Chelsea Daniels.
Yeah.
But the article's filled with phrases such as conservative and the far right, the tradwife movement, which dovetails with the far right women's movement.
There's a tradwife movement, is there?
Yes. Oh, there's even an ultra tradwife, and it's all part of the new political play, which is, and we hear this constantly from our expert from AUT about a post-democratic America. Apparently, they didn't hear the news from CNN that Trump was elected democratically. If Harris had been elected, it wouldn't be a post-democratic America, but it is because it's Trump. So there's this general anti-Trump sentiment running through the whole thing, and this obsession with America, and Trump is forcing women back into the home.
It's all part of the Trump playbook. Apparently. It's all part of the Trump playbook and Atlas. If you're Maharangi Forbes, it's all part of the Atlas. So let me just get this straight, Bob, and this was the great thing about watching your big blog the other day. So we have no indication, statistical information, that traditional motherhood is on the rise. We do not have any organised groups that call themselves tradwives or form Facebook groups or have a political agenda. All we have is a bunch of woke lefty journalists and some academics screaming that they exist. The whole thing is, in fact, a complete hysterical fabrication, isn't it?
Well, I think in reality there is a return to conservatism, and I think that's probably.
But you
where
would
the
say
AUT
that, Bob, because you're a conservative.
Yeah, but that's right. But that's because common sense is starting to kick in. Sean, I think there is a cultural tipping point, because I think people have seen just how extreme this radical left has gone, and this whole transgender dudes can play in women's sports, can identify, we can't even define what a woman now, is actually forcing people back to conservative values. And actually the lecturer talks about this etiology of returning to actually what is stable state of mind, which I thought was an interesting term.